Lesson 2-2, adding integers continued. In part 1 of lesson 2-2, we learned how to add integers that both had the same sign. So for example, if I wanted to add -3 plus -4, right, we learned when adding two integers that have the same sign, like in this case they're both negative, right, we take the absolute values of the two integers. The absolute value of -3 is 3, the absolute value of -4 is 4. We add them, and we use the original sign of the integers. So because they were both negative integers, right, they both had a negative sign, our final answer will also be negative. Right, so -3 plus -4 is -7. In this video, in part 2 of lesson 2-2, we will learn how to add integers that have opposite signs when one is positive and one is negative. So let's imagine that the temperature outside is currently 4 degrees. Right, but let me number our thermometer quickly. Forgot to do that. So it is currently 4 degrees outside. In a few hours from now, the temperature is going to drop 3 degrees. It's going to go down 3 degrees. I want to know what the final temperature would be. So it's currently 4 degrees, and it's going to drop -3 degrees, right? It's going to go down by 3. So starting at 4, we're going to go down 1, 2, 3, which leaves us at 1. So 4 plus -3 equals 1. What if the starting temperature were 1 degree? Let's say it's 1 degree outside. In a few hours from now, the temperature is going to go down by, well, I don't know, 4 degrees. So it's going to become 4 degrees colder than that. What would the temperature be? Well, starting at 1, since we're once again going down, right, we're making the temperature colder, we will go down 1, 2, 3, 4 degrees, which leaves us at -3. So 1 plus -4 equals -3. Right? And just like with part 1 of this lesson, I'm going to take you through several examples before I give you the actual rule that you can apply when adding integers that have opposite signs. Alright, let's try a couple more. Let's start with a negative number. Let's say it's currently -2 degrees outside. And a few hours from now, temperature is going to go up 6 degrees, right? So I'm adding 6. So starting at -2, because it's becoming 6 degrees warmer, I will move 6 degrees in the upward direction. -2 plus 6 equals +4. Let's try one more before I give you the rule. Oops. Okay, let's start at -5. -5. So the starting temperature is -5, and it's going to go up by 5. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So -5 plus 5 gives us 0. Okay, and by the way, when you have an example like this where you're adding the negative version of an integer and its positive version, right, like -5 plus 5, you're adding 5 and its negative counterpart. This is what is called a zero pair. Right, and when you have a zero pair, such as negative 5 plus 5, the answer will always be 0. Okay, let me now give you the rule that you can apply when adding integers with opposite signs. And you may have already figured out the rule for yourself, just from the few examples that we did. Okay, let me use our first example, 4 plus negative 3. Okay, so when adding integers that have opposite signs, just like when adding integers that have the same sign, we're going to start by taking the absolute values of the two numbers. Right, the absolute value of 4 is 4. The absolute value of negative 3 is 3. But this time we're going to subtract them. 4 minus 3 gives us 1. And we are going to use the sign of the number that has the bigger absolute value, right? So when comparing 4 and negative 3, which of these two has the bigger absolute value? Well, 4 has the bigger absolute value, right? And because 4 is positive, our final answer will also be positive. Right, so 4 plus negative 3 gives us a positive 1. All right, let's try another example using this rule. Let's try 6 plus negative 8. Okay, so we'll start by taking the absolute value of 6 and the absolute value of 8, right? Absolute value of 6 is 6, absolute value of negative 8 is 8, okay? And we're actually going to, the one thing I forgot to mention with the rule is that we're always going to subtract the smaller number from the larger number, right? So 8 minus 6 is 2, okay? And let's think about which of our two integers has the greater absolute value. Well, negative 8 has the greater absolute value when compared to positive 6, and because negative 8 is a negative number, our final answer will also be negative. Okay, so 6 plus negative 8 gives us negative 2. Okay, let's try another one. Let's start with a negative this time. Negative 9 plus a positive 6. Well, the absolute value of negative 9 is 9. The absolute value of 6 is just 6. And when I subtract them, 9 minus 6 is 3. And because negative 9 has a greater absolute value than positive 6, our final answer will be negative. Alright, let's try a couple more. Remember, when trying to become a better math student, the key really is repetition. Okay, let's add negative 9 plus 9. Right, and if you remember from before when we added negative 5 and positive 5, whenever you're adding a positive integer to its negative counterpart, right, or to the negative version of that number, the answer will always be 0, okay? But applying the rule, right, if we take the absolute value of negative 9, we get 9. The absolute value of 9 is 9, and of course 9 minus 9 gives us 0. Right, once again, this is what is called a zero pair, and a zero pair will always have a value of 0. Okay, let's try negative 15 plus 18. Okay, the absolute value of negative 15 is 15. The absolute value of 18 is 18. And when I subtract the smallest from the largest, 18 minus 15 is 3. Right, and our final answer will be positive because positive 18 has a greater absolute value than negative 15. And that's all there really is to adding integers with opposite signs. See you in the next video.